I'll tell you what, if you think Jack Reacher is not very good, you should try Keeping Up with the Joneses, okay? Which is also out this week, which is this very, very dreary comedy, which returns once again to that suburban couple are not what they seem routine. So Zach Galifianakis and Isla Fisher are this suburban couple who are the kind of soccer mum and dad, living a kind of fairly boring staid life. They live in a cul-de-sac, which is a both physical and metaphorical cul-de-sac.
Ah.
You get it? Their life is in a cul-de-sac.
Yeah, a cul-de-sac is quite a rude word, by the way, in French.
What?
I mean, it's fine. You can use it because everyone uses it. But my mum, who's a French teacher, says the word cul in French is actually quite rude. But a cul-de-sac is perfectly fine. Carry on.
Okay, thanks for dropping that bombshell.
Yeah, it's a sort of, I think it's a word for, if I remember right, it's all about the word bottom.
Okay.
Yeah.
This show is really becoming
informative, if a little.
But what else does one call it?
Call it a cul-de-sac.
No, but is there? Sorry, is there any other word for?
I think so. Oh, that's a good question. Is there any
other word for cul-de-sac? Okay, fine. Well, that's what they live. And in fact, all the way through the film, they refer to it as a cul-de-sac.
Just saying.
So just saying, okay? They're not French. There we go. And then this couple move in next door who seem to be incredibly swishy, played by John Hamm and Gal Gadot. We do pronounce the T.
Gal Gadot. We do absolutely pronounce the T.
And so boring couple, look at exciting couple, go, oh, there's something weird about them. And, of course, it turns out there probably is something weird about them. Next thing they know, they find that their house has been bugged by the swishy, super secretive couple that have moved in next door. Perhaps the bugging is to do with something at work. So they go to the work security guard and say, we found a bug. And he says, wow, this is really important. You have indeed found something.
Gaffney? You ready for level 4 security clearance?
Okay.
Okay, here we go.
Carl.
Yeah.
You got like a red dot on your forehead.
Yeah, it's called adult acne. Thank you very much.
Oh!
I'm in a hit! I'm in a hit! I'm in a hit!
Are you hurt?
I've been shot!
Oh, God. No, honey, it's just a latte.
It burns, it burns.
It's a Joneses! Let's run for Carl's house. Oh, God!
When I get killed out here, get in the car.
Why, so you can kill us in there?
I said, get in the car.
We're gonna get in the car.
Guys, now.
When I count to 3, we're gonna run, okay? 1, 2. Jeff!
Oh, my God.
I said 3!
Jeff, please, would you just get in the car? I was making a head start.
On your wife?
If anyone was watching the webcam and they saw us laughing whilst that clip was playing, just to be clear, we weren't laughing at that clip.
No, we weren't laughing at the clip. We were laughing at some French, which was coming our way.
From Robin, the editor.
Robin, the editor, who was looking up rude French words. Like, no change there.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's just Googling.
I think it's just, yeah. So yeah. I am kind of...
So apparently cul-de-sac does involve with them.
A little bit of that.
Yeah, there we go.
And the rest.
So anyway, in the case of back to that film that you just heard the clip from.
What was it again?
It was called Keeping Up with the Joneses.
A lot of shouting and shooting.
A lot of shouting and shooting. The thing is, firstly, you've seen versions of this movie done better hundreds of times before. So it's basically, I mean, if you've ever seen The Burbs, it's nothing like as good as The Burbs. If you've ever seen Mr. and Mrs. Smith, there's a bit of that in it. It is also, to some extent, like that film which very few people saw called The Joneses, as opposed to Keeping Up with the Joneses, or Neighbours, or Bad Neighbours, or the other Neighbours that wasn't the remake of the original Neighbours. I mean, we have seen this riff done loads of times, and you just kind of accept it as, okay, fine, it's a standard comedy riff. Couple move in next door, they're not what they seem, what are they? And then the ordinary boring couple get caught up and, or date night, that whole sort of thing. In the case of this, the problem with it is threefold. Firstly, the jokes aren't funny enough by quite some distance. Secondly, it starts to believe in its own action status and consequently descends far too quickly into runny, jumpy, shooty stuff, which I really don't care about whatsoever. And thirdly, and this is perhaps the biggest problem, it takes people who have previously been sort of fairly charismatic on screen and manages to make them surprisingly dull. So, I mean, whatever else you think, John Hamm's he does that kind of that smarmy character that he does. He's funny. Zach Galifianakis has got, comedy chops. He's been in lots of films that I haven't particularly liked, but he's playing very much against type here as the quiet, schlubby guy who isn't the kind of, he doesn't really understand, and everything's very buttoned down, and he's not in any way crazy. And Isla Fisher, I think, is a very fine performer and a very fine comedy performer. And so and Gal Gadot is, I mean, there's a couple of good lines. Gal Gadot has this one line about, just because I have flawless skin and fabulous bone structure and I never have to moisturize doesn't mean I don't have feelings. So there are one or two gags that land, to use a phrase that you sort of brought up earlier on. But for the most part, you look at it thinking, it's one of those cases in which you've got a series of actually, very functional performers who, got star sparkle and all the rest of it. And there's a lot of running and jumping, and there's a lot of crashy, jouty, jumpy, shooty, and there's a lot of, and yet it is just all. It just reminded me all the way through of other films that I'd much rather be watching. The fact that whilst I was watching it, I actually think of The Joneses, which is particularly peculiar because that was a film that absolutely came and went. So insufficient laughter, over reliance on action sequence that no one really cares about, and a strange ability to dampen down the sparkle and chemistry of the stars, who really should be more interesting than this.